So, Call of Duty 2020 is just around the corner, and I think it's something that needs to be discussed. This game will more than likely be the first in the franchise to be delayed. There are multiple reasons I think that could happen. The main, elephant in the room being that we're currently under the effects of a global pandemic. There are thousands of people dying every day, and studios are closing, not permanently but temporarily for the virus, and people are losing their jobs. It's insanity. It's pure insanity. And where I live, the curve has only just started to flatten, and it's been a month and a half. It's a really scary time, especially, and I feel horrible for those that are affected. Hopefully those that are affected can pull through, and I wish you the best of luck. We're living in a time where games can't exactly release, things can't open. The only things that are open right now are essential shops that have food in. Like Game or GameStop or, those kinds of places, they can't open. I mean, there's absolutely no way they'd allow it. I do believe that we're heading headfirst into a delay for this Gears game. Now, there's a few reasons as well, other than the virus, that I believe this could happen. I believe that even if this virus didn't happen, there would still have been a chance of this getting delayed. And that would mainly be the fact that Sledgehammer Games dropped out last second. That means that Treyarch had to take over the development of this game. Well, not take over, but they essentially had to make a new game. A lot of leaks have come out saying that would be a Black Ops reboot, which in my head is a smart idea. It means that they get to be, they're basically able to remake assets instead of make them from the ground up, remake models of characters and all that kind of jazz. It makes development a bit easier than it would be to just create original assets instead of just updating them. But I could see this happening. I can definitely see this happening. These leaks have been from quite credible sources, and it's rumors of like Mason and Woods possibly returning, which is great. They're great characters and stuff. The campaign for Black Ops 1 was incredible, and hopefully they do it justice if they reboot it. Because Modern Warfare 2019, the campaign was god tier in terms of Call of Duty, and the multiplayer in some people's eyes was very lackluster. I enjoyed it personally, but a lot of people didn't like it. And you can see it as a reboot. You can see it as using the same characters from old games in a completely different story, which is where this could be going. Although being based in Vietnam, I can't see it being too much of a far cry from Black Ops 1. Personally, I think they could have just got away with remaking Black Ops 1 in general, and it would have been much easier for them. But hey, a reboot, it's more effort, so credit where credit is due. I'm just hoping this gets delayed. I'm hoping it does. You might think, why do you hope a Call of Duty game gets delayed? That's kind of a bad thing. I don't think it is. Mainly because of the time crunch that they were sort of put on with Sledgehammer Games dropping out. I think a delay for this game is a very good thing. Call me crazy, but I think Activision may allow it. I said call me crazy. This game is definitely heading down essentially a downward spiral. First it was a time crunch, then it was the coronavirus or COVID-19 outbreak, and then it was Jason Blundell leaving. Everything about this game was essentially doomed from the start, and this is my reasoning as to why I think they could have got away with a delay even without this virus. Now, I don't think this delay is going to be huge. Even I believe it was one of the developers on Twitter said that delays are a good thing. I can't understand why he'd just say this out of the blue. I think this game will get delayed. Do I think it will be delayed for a year? No, it depends. It depends to me. If the situation with COVID-19 worsens, and we get to the point where millions are infected and millions have died, then yes, I could see this game getting delayed for a long time. I could see everything getting delayed for a long time in terms of gaming. If we start to flatten the curve, and by December, for example, flight is available again, because even after the lockdown has finished in certain countries, I doubt flight will be allowed for at least another 3 to 4 months. But I can see this game realistically getting a December release date. This would mark the holidays, which would be a good thing for them. They'd make a lot of money at that time, because typically a Call of Duty game will release in November. Black Ops 4, I believe, released in October, which is kind of unusual for a Call of Duty title. I believe that's the first time that's happened. A delay to December will be completely understandable and quite logical. But if we get to the situation where the curve isn't flattened and the virus keeps getting worse and worse and worse, I could see this game getting delayed for a year. Quite easily. I don't want it to personally, but who am I in the end to get in the way of Mother Nature's road? I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not coming up with anything, so I'm not really one to complain about this kind of stuff. But if the game gets delayed for a year, this could potentially mark something good for the Call of Duty franchise, being that we may end up getting a much more polished and much better optimized game for all consoles, all platforms in general, and just an overall good experience. It would give them the extra year that they originally would have had, and that extra development time, and that time to sort of crunch out better stuff. So yeah, that's what I mean when I say I want this game to get delayed. By 2 months, it could make a small difference. They could add something like an extra game mode, or maybe develop some more maps. It would definitely give zombies in that game some more development time, which is the main thing I'm worried about, especially with Jason Blundell leaving Treyarch. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that these games, you know, they were in development far before you think. I mean, these games have been in development since at least 2 games ago, let's say. I do believe that Infinite Warfare, for example, was in development at the same time as Advanced Warfare, or by the time that had released, or even before that, which is why, personally, I believe Infinite Warfare was even allowed to exist, and then they bundled on Modern Warfare Remastered with it to sort of take away the traction from the 3D movement or exo gameplay. But with that, I can see this game doing decently. If we get even a small delay, I can see it doing okay. I mean, Black Ops 2 was a game that existed on the 2-year cycle. Granted, it was made for last generation consoles. It wasn't as much effort as you'd put into the current generation games. You need a bigger team. You need, you need higher quality assets. You need everything. More compression, more time, more power. You sort of need everything for this. And I personally believe that when the 3-year development cycle rolled around, it was one of the best things to happen to the Call of Duty franchise, even though some of the games they produced in that time were kind of lackluster. You know, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 4. What essentially, you know, franchise fatigue has shown its head so many times in this franchise, and I'm just hoping that if they go back to something old, like Black Ops, if they go back to where they found their roots in terms of the gameplay style they currently have, hopefully we can find something good. I think it worked well for Modern Warfare. Warzone, to me, is one of the most fun game modes Call of Duty has ever had, and it's free for everyone. Download it. And the multiplayer wasn't as bad as people make out, which, I mean, everyone overreacts to it. And there's a lot of stuff that I like about Modern Warfare, especially the campaign, that could translate into Black Ops, which I think the game will be titled just Black Ops. I could imagine like no Call of Duty, that would be funny. But this game, I'm excited for it, but it worries me. Mainly because of the crunch, mainly because of the potential delay. You know, people could get ill, people are ill. You know, Activision members, like family members, could be ill with COVID-19. None of us can really be sure. I'm pretty sure it was confirmed that there were some cases, but I cannot remember off the top of my head. And if there were, I wish the absolute best to those people, and hopefully they have a healthy recovery. I don't want to be disrespectful to those guys, but yeah, this needed to be talked about in my opinion, because Call of Duty is such, I want to say, it's an iconic franchise. Despite its reputation now, it's still an iconic franchise. It still is the most played shooter essentially every year, and I can see that being continued into this year as well. If we flatten the curve, I can see this game releasing in December minimum. If we don't, it will go into the next year, and we may, weirdly enough, end up with a Call of Duty release in the middle of the year, which will be very bizarre. And it will also give even more time for the next developers. This essentially creates a domino effect across all the Call of Duty developers, giving them more time to develop the games, which is a good thing in hindsight, which is 2020 typically, but is a bad thing sometimes. It's sometimes a bad thing. I was trying to think of an excuse or a way it could be a bad thing, but I just couldn't. Obviously the bad thing being COVID-19, a very life-threatening virus. But yeah, this needed to be talked about. And I'm not going to lie, this is the kind of stuff I wish I had a podcast for. I talk about this stuff all the time, but it's a dangerous virus. You know, this game could be delayed. I'm worried about it, and I think it needed to be talked about. Sorry. Anyway, that's essentially all I have for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I've been Jake Plays, and you guys should definitely stay inside. Stay safe. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.